The really interesting part of this review is not that the 2025 Volkswagen Golf GTI is significantly better to both drive and live with, because it is, by the way, but how VW went about making the changes. On the one hand, the German carmaker used its extensive experience developing hot hatches spanning back to arguably the original driver's hatchback, the Golf GTI of 1979. But rather than just settling for a midlife enhancement to performance, it listened to consumer and media feedback and had a crack at ergonomics and function as well. The result is a version of the iconic model that's colloquially referred to as Generation 8.5, but feels altogether more deserving of just 0.5 to describe its evolution of the breed. The expression greater than the sum of its parts was a clever marketing strapline used to promote the E39 5 Series in the 1990s, but applies equally well to the 2025 Volkswagen Golf GTI 8.5, not because the improvements were through radical rethinking, but through a subtle evolution of the status quo. Design. An ironic twist since BMW generational evolution of its own hot small model. The 135 demonstrates how changing the recipe too drastically can result in a vehicle that's unrecognizable from the celebrated original in virtually all but the boot badge. For a 2025 update, however, the Golf GTI retains all its main constituent parts, but consistent incremental changes have had a brilliant effect. It still has the ubiquitous EA 888 2.0-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder petrol engine at the front, and it still drives the front wheels through a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic. It's also still a 5-door, 5-seat small hatchback that can be used as the one-car daily driver with athletic weekend potential under a sophisticated tracksuit. Pricing is the main unknown at the time of writing, however, and depending on which rivals you use for comparison, a likely figure of between $55,000 and $60,000 could look like either great value or a little steep. We'll consider GTI 8.5 actual competitors later once Aussie pricing lobs. The current version is priced at just over $56,000 or $59,990 drive-away. Updates include a completely rethought front-end arrangement with revised suspension that's bolted to the same subframe as the factory-made racer Golf TCR. Engine. There's also more muscle with the 2.0-liter gently squeezed for 15 more kilowatts, taking peak power to 195 kilowatts, while torque remains the same at 370 newton but sticks around longer from 1,600 revolutions per minute to 4,590 revolutions per minute. There are a few telltales on the outside for the trained eye, including a cool illuminated VW badge, subtle facelift, and handsome new-look 19-inch wheels that evoke a bit of 5th-gen style. The interior has been tweaked, more on that below, but beyond all of this, the Golf GTI is much the same, a good thing given it's an accomplished package in MK8 form. The Golf GTI has never tried to be a sledgehammer in the hot hatch segment, and instead, the most successful versions in 8 generations, plus a few if you count the 0.5, have approached performance with subtlety and balance. That's why the 8.5 stands out. It builds on the version introduced in 2021 with calculated changes that aim for holistic improvement rather than clumsy additions that could upset the balance. And it's clear from the first lunge into a turn. The front-end revision has sharpened the entire experience with lightning steering response that sends signals back to the driver's hands as fast as the nose obeys. And there's a mountain of grip in both the resistance to lateral slip, but also traction thanks to the TCR subframe, which brings a little track-focused geometry and weight reduction, but also an electric locking differential that still allows a little bit of a squirm. The GTI doesn't torque steer as such, but has a little shimmy, with some tram lining as its sticky rubber seeks out the greatest mu or friction level in the road surface below. Handling. But the excellent front-end poise perfectly pairs with the rear setup, and the Golf's lovely front-to-rear balance is a complete joy when pushing on in varying conditions and bends. Braking is strong and confident, and a heavy foot can be used to unsettle the rear, but not to the point you'll be looking the other way by mistake. It's always within limits. Outright cornering grip limits are impressive but a degree friendlier than the AWD hatchback bruisers, including the Golf R, and the natural limits that come with front-wheel drive traction create an accessible performance ceiling without spoiling the fun. It all works very nicely with the 8.5 engine enhancements, which once again aren't stratospheric but scintillating without being scary. Acceleration will make you smile, and the broader torque will keep you stuck to the tail of many more powerful vehicles. The combined result is so wonderfully easy to appreciate without necessarily being able to put your finger on a main contributor. But just as impressive is how the enhancements have not come at a cost to comfort. This is still a car you could use for dull daily duties without once being reminded of its weekend frivolous nature with a jarring ride, blurting exhaust note, or squeezy rear seats or boot, for example. Interior. Speaking of understated subtlety, the theme continues through the interior. While it's not quite confirmed exactly what'll be included in the price when it arrives in Australia, but the car we sampled was spec'd in what we regard perfect driver's trim. Sports seats were upholstered in cool, nostalgic tartan cloth, and featured heating for cool days blasting mountain roads, but with weight-saving manual position adjustment, not heavy electric, two-tone gray features as an optional upgrade. There's also a small sunroof, which is perfect for letting in a little more light to the sporty dark interior, but saves more weight over massive panoramic panels, which position the extra mass high up and raise the center of gravity. A new design steering wheel is still sporty and ergonomic but has fattened up a little. We hope it doesn't continue and become the next BMW wheel plumping, which really had been on the pies until recently.